So sadly, we gotta get through the scary BS first.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm not even doing Halloween this year. Like normally, I'm really excited to like have the kids come to my house and what outfits are you wearing and who are you supposed to be. This year, I don't want anyone coming to my house for Halloween. I'm not even decorating, and I love decorating for
I was about to
Halloween.
say, considering what's going on, I say you get a pass.
Yeah, the way I feel about it, I don't want anyone's filthy kids coming to my house because kids are disgusting. They don't wash their hands. They dig in their nose, dig in their crack, and don't wash their hands. Like I don't want any of those dirty little plague-ridden children coming near me.
I thought you were gonna say monsters.
And I was about to say that, but I was like, that's a bridge too far.
Uh,
Yeah, but
your mileage may
children
vary depending on who the kid is, but I could agree
no,
with you.
in general, children are disgusting. Like young boys, especially when they hit puberty and they start to stink. Oh God,
Oh yeah, that's the worst.
it's like God damn. Jesus, put on some man antiperspirant deodorant. Okay.
Yeah. Go take a shower or two.
Just really, you just need a good antiperspirant deodorant. Actually, I'm gonna let you in how I got over my when I hit puberty and the testosterone started pumping. I started to shave my pits, and because a lot of the bacteria that causes body odor under your armpits, it's not in your actual pits; it's in the hair on your pits. So if you shave your pits and use a good antiperspirant, use a good body wash and a good antiperspirant deodorant on top of that. But here's the thing: if you use a deodorant and you shave your armpits, you have to use a deodorant that's kind of that's special because if you put it directly on your skin, you have sensitive skin underneath your armpits. You might have some
Irritation.
irritation. Yeah, but I mean, a little bit of irritation is okay. Not to have girls think you stink. So. It's really hard to hook up when you smell like onions. Because that's how my body odor smelled when I was in before I figured out how to control that stuff. Like onions. I'm like, someone cooking onions? And I was like, no, that's me. That's me smelling like onions. It really wasn't the worst. Like, really, body odor wouldn't be a bad thing if body odor, especially men's body odor, smelled like something that was attractive, like cookies or puppies. Like, have you ever smelled a puppy? Like, it's like
Yeah.
a
That's a
newly
weird one.
puppies have a very distinct odor, but it's not bad. It's just very distinct. If humans if body odor for men smelled like puppies, it would be great. It's like, ah, it's never that bad. like imagine you're a high school teacher. You go into your classroom after gym or recess, and it just smells like puppies. It'd be great. Or if young girls, because young girls can stink too. Young girls, and you go in there and it smells like freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. No one would say anything. I'd be like, someone baking cookies? What's going on?
Back down to earth, Red.
But no, everyone has to smell horrific. Yeah, puberty sucks. I'm glad.
That's the worst part.
I'm glad
Worst part
that.
of,
No, go ahead, Kenoshi.
that's the worst part of being a teenager is puberty.
I mean, puberty, the social awkwardness, clicks.
And that and getting dumped for the first time was pretty bad.
Nah, man. You're supposed to listen. People act like because I remember in high school, because I went to a Catholic high school, where people thought that the person you dated in high school you were supposed to eventually get married to, and I'm like, this is look, listen. You're supposed to dating is like going to a buffet. You're supposed to try different things and find out what you like. But you shouldn't think that the first thing you try at the buffet, the first thing you put on your plate, is what you're going to stick with for the rest of the night. That is stupid. You should try many different things. And I think I'll try some of the langoustine macaroni. I'll try some of the...
really depends on your perspective, I guess.
Baked. Well, I mean, think of it like this, okay? Human beings, well, actually, in a lot of places, the life expectancy for human beings has gone down because the healthcare sucks. But in places where people are on the ball, like people in our generation are supposed to live to our hundreds, and you're going to go with someone that you met when you're 16, 17 years old, because marriage is a serious thing. It's supposed to be for life. A lifetime, 80 plus years with one person when you're a teenager, where you haven't even fully formed who you are and what you're going to be. Like, even if you look at from decade to decade, this person you are at 16 is not the same person you're going to be at 26 or 36 or 46. People change a lot over time. Hell, you're not even the same person you were yesterday, today. So for you to expect you to find your life mate when you're still unformed is kind of a naive proposition. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to video
yeah.
games.
Yeah, let's see. Okay.
Yeah, let's get back to video games. So basically, we got some good stuff tonight. We've got we'll be discussing Smash Brothers, the stuff we want, the Smash Brothers news. We'll discuss.
Yeah, we can discuss how what's his name's trolling like usual.
Who?
Masahiro Sakurai being a big old troll again.
I don't think he's trolling.
I think this is a meme pick.
No,
I'm going to say it right now.
This
meme pick.
This shit's about money. All right.
Yeah.
This, like, Microsoft.
No, it's a meme pick.
Mojang basically, because in order for some third-party characters, Nintendo has to work out a deal to have that character in Smash Brothers. But for other third-party characters, Nintendo gets paid to put those characters in Smash Brothers. I think Nintendo got paid to put Minecraft Steve in Smash Brothers. And business-wise, that's a good move.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as a gamer, I could think of literally 5 characters that should have been in Smash Brothers for Minecraft Steve.
Clearly.
Like, right off the top of my head.
This is why I called it a meme pick.
Like,
because there's many choices that you could have for a Smash character.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I would have preferred Travis Touchdown over Minecraft Steve. I would have preferred, because people are going to make the presumptive argument that, this game, the thing is that these characters Minecraft is one of the most popular games of all time. And that's true, but by that metric, hell, if you want to go by games that have really popular characters, they should have had a character from GTA in Smash before Minecraft Steve, because GTA is hugely popular. They should have had one of the characters from Call of Duty before Minecraft Steve. So you can't say the argument is it's commercially popular, so therefore they need to be there. This shit's about money. Nintendo probably got a big fat check from Microsoft in order to have Minecraft Steve in the game, or some other concession. Like, don't be surprised that you'll see some type of Microsoft. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. The reason you got Ori in that second game is because of this deal. Like, there was some type of this quid pro quo business deal probably going on here. So,
let's say backstage deal.
That's what I'm saying. This for that quid pro quo deal going on. So business-wise, it's a good thing. But I mean, if this was the way I look at it is this: if you're announcing shit that's supposed to get people into a game or excite them, this did work for me because I don't give a fuck about Minecraft or Minecraft Steve. So, if this was supposed to entice people like me who kind of fell out of Smash Brothers or haven't turned it on for a while, this is not working for me. I know some people, it's really, they're happy about it because they're invested, but I'm like, I'm good. So how'd you guys feel about the Minecraft Steve announcement?
I got a third person to to mark as kill on sight in Smash Brothers.
Oh, so you're like me with people who always have Pikachu.
Yes, though, if anything, that list is three: King K. Rool, the Incineroar, and now Steve.
Really, for me, it's Pikachu because I just hate people who use Pikachu. Kenoshi, your thoughts?
I don't really care. I haven't played Smash for I
A
don't know
while
how
now.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave my copy away to a friend, so not only do I
I,
not care, but this isn't gonna get me back into it. Like I'm not gonna go buy another copy because of Minecraft Steve, you know. So like it doesn't do anything for me. I'm like, okay, nice.
as I said, I consider this a meme pick, and I usually hate meme picks.
Well, you weren't here when we did our our midweek cast, so I guess we can cover some of that stuff that you weren't able to be here for. So my question is, what do you think about the whole Apple and Epic thing? The shitstorm just keep. Or sorry, the Amazon Luna thing.
What happened exactly?
Well, Amazon
What
announced
was it?
Luna, so it's basically their take
Yeah.
on Google Stadia. It's a lot more price friendly because Stadia, in order for you to get Stadia, you have to spend like $79, $89, and then
Yeah.
you have to buy the individual games, and then you have to you have to have a good internet connection in order to use the shit. And then there's like a lot of conditionals in order for Stadia to work for you. Amazon Luna is a lot more. It's basically a subscription model. Right now, it's $5.99, so $6. I'm pretty sure if you have Amazon Prime, they'll probably throw some type of deal at you for it. You can spend $50 to get their special controller, or you could use the controllers you already have. So it's already a heads and shoulders above Stadia. Um,
Stadia.
So you can use your own controllers, and how do they sell their games exactly?
Well, it's basically kind of like you get a subscription to a certain amount of games already, like that come with the service. But then you can subscribe to certain publishers. So I'm guessing, kind of like how anyone here have Amazon Prime?
I I remember I remember Amazon Prime at least, so I
Well,
can understand the idea of it.
well, with Amazon Prime's movies, like the base of Amazon Prime is you get access to a whole bunch of content. But then if you want to have access to certain channels like HBO Max, Cinemax, um, certain channels like Stars, you have to pay a subscription on top of that. So,
Yeah.
and it's actually like if there's only certain channels you want to watch, it's actually a really good deal because you can spend like 20. You basically spend $100 for the yearly Prime, and then you just basically get certain channels that you want to watch, and you just pay for that monthly instead of spending, you know, uh,
Yeah.
$50, $60 a month on cable. And that's a good deal for cable in some places, $50 or $60. Because I know people that spend hundreds of dollars, like $150, $170 on cable every month. So
Yeah.
so Prime is a really good deal for that. But if you want like extra content for certain channels, it's like $4.99, $6.99, $7.99, $9.99. And so that's the way the channels on Amazon Luna is going to be, where it's like, okay, let's say hypothetically speaking, you want the EA channel. You would spend like $5.99 and have access to games from EA on that channel. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Wouldn't
already
be
out the bat, this is
would be questioning. I was saying I would be questioning their taste if they go with the EA
well.
channel,
I'm using that
but
as
I
an
can understand
example.
the cheapness.
Yeah, I'm using that as an example. I would never buy anything EA at this point because I don't like EA. I don't like their business philosophy. I don't like how they treat some of my favorite franchises. So for me, EA can go eat a bag of dicks. But I'm just using that as an example. Um, so Amazon Luna is basically looking like the better version of Stadia. I still won't get it, but it looks like a better version of Stadia. Like, hey man, if Google had actually run this shit like they wanted it to succeed, this could have been Stadia.
That sounds good. I mean, I mean, there's just a lot of games out there to play, and give people more of a chance to play those games rather than spend thousands of dollars every year to play a large majority of games.
That's true. That is true. Um, I think that how can I put this? I think I know some people are going to get angry when they hear this, but
Hmm.
I think like okay, I think that that the subscription business model for video games is both a good thing and a bad thing. Um, the good thing is that it lets people play games that they would never want to buy in order to play because the age of demos is long past. You can't test out a game unless you get invested in it. And some companies are so slick and assholish they make you pay for the privilege of playing a demo. Like Bethesda with, hey, if you pre-order the game, you get the beta test. It's like this is not a beta test. You're making people pay to play a shitty the pre to pre-play a game. And a lot of companies do this. Like if you pre-order the game, you get into the beta, which is not how you do a beta or a stress test. Um, so like now, like with Xbox Game Pass and Luna and stuff like that, you can basically test out games without having to spend buku cash on the game, and you can be like, yeah, I played it. I played a demo of it. I was not. I played a little bit of that game, and I didn't like it. I thought it was trash. Like so, this is a good thing that there's a service that lets you do that. The bad thing
Yeah.
is that this diminishes the value, and current and even more so assaults um, assaults the um, the argument that uh, physical is the best way to go because there comes a certain point where the cost of spending $10 a month, $120 a year is so much more than buying these games individually for 60 and now with the ninth gen games coming out $70 a pop. The
Yeah.
argument to be made for buying everything physical is getting diminished, and with companies like GameStop going out of business. Yes, GameStop is probably going to go out of business. Um, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter
I
of
was
when.
about to say, considering how they treated the business, I was surprised that they lasted this long.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's like, well, you knew eventually the shit was going to happen. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like remember when the AIDS epidemic was really hitting, and like they would tell you, okay, these are the things you have to avoid if you don't want to get HIV/AIDS. Don't engage in risque sexual activities. Don't do intravenous drugs, and if you do, use clean needles. If you do have sex, use protection. But the best way is just not to have unprotected sex at all, abstinence. But let's be real. Statistically, abstinence only doesn't work. So here's what you need to do in order to not contract HIV/AIDS. And yet there are people who are not following these procedures to keep themselves safe, and then they act surprised when they contract the STI or HIV/AIDS. And that's basically kind of like with GameStop is like I'm surprised that they lasted this long because they did everything you should not do in business, and you would go out of business. So you know um, failure, 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 failure.
Hmm.
But what are you gonna do? Um, so anything else you guys want to talk about when it comes to stream? Any other ideas you guys have about streaming that you want to share? Nothing. No one has any.
In Washington State.
Considering which side I'm on, you know I got 0.
All right. Here's what I'll say before we move on to the next topic. I like. Here's the thing. I don't like. Even though Stadia was a turd that was then doused in kerosene and ignited on fire, so a shitty flaming turd. I do think that for people who don't want to spend, hundreds of dollars in order to get access to a lot of games priced at AAA levels, I'm not going to say AAA games, say games that aren't AAA but are priced at AAA levels. Having a streaming service where you can basically have a more streamlined experience to play video games is not a bad thing. Because it gets more people into the hobby of playing games and being able to play those games, talk about how they felt about those games, and have opinions about it without having to spend buku cash on it. However, so I want there to be a service that succeeds. But we're going to have to see if it's good or not. Amazon has shown that they have lots of money to spend and throw at things, and they don't mind pulling things back in order to make sure that they eventually do succeed. So I'll give them credit on that. Like that game that they released and then de-released because it was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. If more companies could pull that off.
Like Fallout 76. We're pulling this until it can work. Like there's so many games that have been released where I'm like, man, had they just had another 6 months to work on this game, it could have been so much better. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's keep it moving. Michel Ancel. The more I hear about Michel Ancel leaving Ubisoft and all this shit coming out, the how close it was between him leaving the company and this shit coming out on him, and from how far left field it was with what he was doing and why he left, it sounds to me like they told him you can either be fired or you can resign, and he resigned because more shit is coming out on these people at Ubisoft. Or should I go back to what I used to call them, Ubi shit?
Yeah. Yeah, because apparently he's a bad apple too.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, because think about it. A lot of these people who were doing this fucked up shit were in positions of authority, which meant that if you wanted to succeed at Ubisoft, you had to be a dick. So, considering that Michel Ancel was in a management position, he probably had to be a dick in order to get there.
Yeah.
So
sometimes that's the rules. Sometimes that's the rules in certain ventures, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, if you're gonna be a manager, there is a certain level of getting things done and having that leadership quality. But being a leader doesn't mean berating and degrading the people underneath you. That's bad management.
Yeah.
That tells me that the person who's managing shouldn't be in a management position. And clearly, I mean, looking how fucking samey Ubisoft's games have been, looking at how, their game, how Assassin's Creed basically was the same shit for almost a decade, and then it crashed into the ground. Then they found a new formula, and all the Assassin's Creeds have been the same shit for 6-7 years at this point. At a certain point, it's you need to look at things and say, okay, is this just a series of isolated incidents, or is this baked into the system? To piggyback off of Michel Ancel, I mean, a thing just released this week where we found out that 25% of the people at Ubisoft have in a report actually endorsed this report that said that they saw harassment, which means statistically there are more people who saw the shit and didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So you have a company.
They want to get fired, or they wanted to keep their jobs because they didn't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah, which basically means there's a lot of people at Ubisoft that are just not having a good day.
No.
Like the more the shit that comes out about Ubisoft, the more I don't want to buy their games. And they've shown some games that I was really interested in, but I'm like, I can't in good faith support a company that has people doing this to people. You know, and this
Like
is
the Breath of the Wild clone looks kind of interesting to me, and
yeah, but it
it's
looks
just
like
what?
it looks like it has more going on than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's why I like. That's why I was like, hey, they looks like they're taking that formula and adding a lot to it.
Yeah, and I was like, man, this looks cool. But when I see a company where people are being sexually harassed and people are being drugged without their knowledge, and I'm like, can I give money to a company where this is the culture? You know, HR, instead of helping the people who are being victimized, blames the victims and buries shit under the ground. Buries their heads.
Because HR for a lot of, because I think there was a time where HR was a neutral entity when it came to companies, but now the companies create their own HR companies.
Yeah.
For their own HR wings, so the HR department is just, you know, a weapon for the company.
Well, yeah, they're looking out for the company, but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like, because normally, like in HR, the way human resources is supposed to work is, okay, let's say Steve says a racist joke, right? And they say, you've been reported for saying a racist fucking joke, okay? So then they would go and they would ask people who are around Steve, did Steve say this racist shit? And then it would either be corroborated or denied. And then if enough people say, okay, yeah, Steve said that racist shit, and he said it before, here are the times he did it, boom, 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 boom. Steve would eventually, if not that day, the next day or the day before that, he would be called in and they would say, hey, did you say this racist shit? And he would either confirm it or deny it. And they'd say, look, here's the evidence of what you did. You can either lie and say you didn't do it, or we can, you know, we have evidence. And Steve would probably be asked to resign. And he would have to, they would give him a box with his shit so that he could take his shit out of his cubicle or desk. And they'd call security and walk his ass off the premises. The problem with Ubisoft is that their HR was like, oh, this person said some rapey shit. Well, he makes millions of dollars he makes billion-dollar games for the company, so we're going to bury this report. Like, you had an HR department that wasn't doing its job, is what I'm saying, basically.
And people wonder why. People wonder why some places are Hades because of HR like that.
Yeah. I can't say, like, I cannot in good faith. And so, like, just for me personally, I can't in good faith. Like, I went on PC Gamer because I have a PC, and like a lot of news for new games coming out and news for gaming is at PC Gamer. And I was reading it, and this thing basically said, hey, like, this new game's coming out for Ubisoft. And I'm like, I cannot in good faith support Ubisoft with this shit going on. And this guy responded to me. He's like, well, you know, I can buy these games through another storefront. It's like, you're missing the point. Even if the games look like something you would want to play, and there are Ubisoft games that look like something I want to play, I will not give my money to this company, either directly or indirectly.
In short, you wouldn't touch anything that belongs to them with a 10-foot pole or by illegal means.
Nope, I won't even pirate.
All I say is, you know, if you really feel the need to play these games, but you don't want to support these companies,
head down to the bay.
You know, put on your straw hat, jump on your Jolly Rogers, and sail the digital seas.
Head down to the bay
at your own risk.
Head down to the bay. Get your raft and head down to the bay. I mean, Ubisoft. Like, here's the thing, and like this isn't something that just popped up. Okay, this is some shit that's been going on for years. Years.
It could be decades. How long has EA been around?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's how fucking
decades.
Here's how fucked up Ubisoft is. Like, EA is fucked up, But EA has never had this type of shit coming out on them the way Ubisoft shit is. Like EA is bad for the crunch time and just putting out shoddy fucking products in order to meet a deadline. But Ubisoft, people were being molested, people were being drugged, people, I mean, just normally just bad management. And this, I mean, like with Ubisoft, yeah, like the people who have been doing this had been doing this for at least a decade. Okay, probably longer than that, probably 15 years.
Yeah, like I said, they've been probably doing this for about a decade. And...
Yeah, because no one, look, let me put it this way, no one just starts harassing someone. Okay, it's like remember a few years ago when that guy who was the linebacker or the running back for the Baltimore Ravens, and they showed that video where he knocked his fiance the fuck out and then dragged her out the elevator, right? And like people at the time were like, well, they tried to explain, well, she spit on him and all that type of shit. I'm like, look, the way he knocked that girl out and hit her, he has been hitting her, because typically speaking, the first time someone hits a woman, they act really contrite about the shit, and they're like, I'm sorry, but the way that motherfucker knocked that girl out, it was like, yeah, he been hitting her. That's not a brand new thing.
Clearly.
So, I mean, this is some shit that's been going on with Ubisoft. It's not something that just happened. You don't just spontaneously have people in positions of power who basically are saying shit like, this woman is annoying me and she needs to be gang raped up the ass until her mind opens up. Like, that just doesn't come out of nowhere.
That is deep hatred.
Someone doesn't spend 14 years working in a place being perfectly normal and a nice guy, and then one day they come in and they just start talking like that. That shit doesn't happen overnight. Okay? Yeah. They've been doing this for years. It was escalation. Okay? So yeah, I can't support these games until Ubisoft is going to have to make a real effort, and people are going to have to be fired. They're going to have to have a transparent plan for how they're going to deal with this. And personally, I just don't think they can pull it off. Because the culture is too ingrained. You'd have to have a massive change in culture. And will they do it is the big thing. Because they probably won't, because it's Ubisoft and...
Yeah.
Ubisoft kind of sucks. I mean, basically. But anyway, that's my, yeah. Anything else you guys want to add before we move on to the next topic?
I would make the joke about Ubisoft's icon being appropriate for this, but
what, looking
it's
like an asshole?
No.
It looks like
looking like something that
something getting flushed down the toilet.
Yes.
I mean, it kind of does, but to me, it looks more like a cat's asshole. And much like an asshole, Ubisoft is shitty. There you go, folks. It's an asshole.
Yeah.
So our next topic is I was going to share how to critique a game, because people seem to think that how to critique things is a difficult thing. They seem to think that their opinion makes how to critique something, and opinions are good, but you have to look at the technical merits of things. So I was going to critique a game that a lot of people should be familiar with, and walk people through my process on how I do that. So the game is Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. It's a pretty popular game. A lot of people know it. For those of you who don't know, it's a game. It was a launch title for the Super Nintendo. and for some for some games it was for some people they got the game. It was a pack in with the system. For me, it was a pack in with the system, and it was good. I liked it. I personally, I really enjoyed Super Mario World. Now, um, the way I would review that game is I would look at it as an individual game, but also in the context of the series. So, Super Mario World as a game basically is solid, but it's also a step backwards from the, I would say, oversaturation of power ups that you had in Super Mario Brothers 3.
Sometimes going back, sometimes keeping it simple helps a lot,
Well,
especially if you put it into a certain context.
taking a step backwards can be good if being having too much excess kind of takes the game down a few notches. Like, because here's the thing, there are power ups in Super Mario World and Super Mario Brothers 3 that
They're good for one level.
they're good for one level or one part of a level, and that's it. They serve no other purpose. And why would you have power ups that serve no fucking purpose whatsoever, except for one area of a level? That's kind of, how can I put this? Bad game design. So Super Mario World basically appends that. You only have 4 power ups in the game. The Super Mushroom, the Cape Feather, the Fire
Flower,
Flower,
the cake pal, yeah, and the star.
and the Star. And I'm gonna add on top of that the blimp, the power blimp that turns Mario into, it inflates him with helium so he can float. That's it. That's all you got. There's no Hammer Brothers
I consider.
suit. There's no Boomerang
I was going
Brothers
to
suit.
say the the P power up is kind of like the frog suit. Useful levels.
Well, there's 2 levels where it's actually really useful, but by and large, it's not a fun power up. So basically, yeah, Super Mario World takes all the aspects of its predecessors and refines the formula even more. It introduces a new gameplay mechanic, which is Yoshi. Yoshi acts as both a way of solving certain environmental puzzles, but also Yoshi acts as a new attack and another hit. So, if you take a hit while
Or
riding
an
Yoshi,
extra jump.
or an extra jump, a way of that's what I said when I said it's a way of solving environmental puzzles. That includes an extra
Yeah,
jump.
it's just that it's just that when I remember hearing that, it kind of reminds me of that one image that you always see when it comes to Yoshi abuse.
Yeah, yeah. Mario uses them as an extra jump, and then they pan down to the hole that he jumped, and there's like hundreds of Yoshis down there, like dead Yoshis. But yeah,
Yeah,
So I mean, basically, and as far as graphics go, Super Mario World looks dramatically better than than the NES games. It really showed what a Super Mario, it really showed the promise of what the Super Nintendo could do. Um, the music is on point. It's repetitive without being annoying, because it loops. It's simple melodies that loop, but Koji Kondo turns out some great tunes that are memorable. Um, the boss battles are interesting. There's enough variety between them that a variation between different ones from world to world to world that you don't feel that it's just the same thing over and over again. Unlike the boss battles you had in Super Mario Brothers, which were just kind of lame. It's one of the weaker points of Super Mario Brothers 3. And the controls are smooth, and the final boss is just excellent. It's a really well staged final boss battle between Mario and Bowser. So overall, I would have to say that Super Mario World is a must-have for the Super Nintendo. And that was my critique of the game.
Yeah.
Um,
For me, I got different aspects because I try not to judge a game based on the visuals or the audio because some of those are either the eye or ear of the beholder moments.
well, that's true, but it's part of an aspect. It's like if you're eating, something. Yeah, it has to taste good. That's true, but you're also looking at it. Like you could have the most delicious stew in the world, but if it looks like someone vomited in a bowl, you're not going to be as excited
Yeah,
about eating
but as I said, that's the eye of the beholder moment because it has first it would have to attract your attention, which is something that's automatic that would automatically get you to head towards it. I'm trying to look beyond that,
yeah,
which
yeah. I mean, those aren't the main aspects of a game, unless the graphics of a game are what the core concept is about. Like Nights into Dreams. That game has some of the shittiest gameplay mechanics ever. The real point of Nights into Dreams was showing that the Sega Saturn could do 3D effects. That was what that
Yeah.
game was for. So the graphics are a major component for it. Same thing with
yeah,
Panzer Dragoon. So you can't you have to look at a game and see what is the primary purpose behind this game. Like Pilot Wings. Pilot Wings is all about
about demonstrating what certain controls of a system could do, right?
and it's all about it's a tech demo. It's all about what the different modes can do. That's what it's about. It's about showing off the modes. Now, if you don't want to do that, like so that's the primary point behind it is showing off what the different modes can do. Um,
Yeah. After all, if something gets your attention and it's and it looks good, it's good. That's that's at least a thing that draws you to it. Though for me, I try to be extra careful and remember that so just because something looks good or is demonstrating something that's pretty nice, that may not be the core of the that may not be the entirety of the game,
well, I
which
mean,
is where I usually review the how it controls, how the gameplay is, how the flow works, and the bosses. Because if the bosses don't give you a chance to know how the controls are or test your control skill, you're kind of just going through the motions of the ocean.
it depends on what the game is. Like RPGs, the primary factor of an RPG should be gameplay systems and story. Graphics should be like a third down that list because an RPG lives or dies on the gameplay systems and the story. What motivation do you have to play through this game? That's kind of like where Final Fantasy kind of went down the shitter is because they focus so much on the graphics that they forget you have to have a story and gameplay systems. RPGs need to have a certain level of complexity to them, or it's not an RPG. You're playing a beat 'em up or an action game. Kind of like why to me
Look at
Final
Final
Fantasy
Fantasy
15.
14
Well,
and
Final Fantasy
15.
14 is an MMO. Final Fantasy 15 is
Yeah, I kind of goofed that up.
yeah. Final Fantasy
So my bad.
15 and
It's Final Fantasy
16.
15.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 15 and 16 look to be more of the same bullshit we've been getting, which is
I was about to say 16. Wasn't out yet,
yeah, but they
but
showed
it's
some
already looking
footage
like
of
that.
it, and it looks like a more refined version of Final Fantasy 15, which is terrible because Final Fantasy
Oh
15
boy.
was a steaming pile of shit, in my opinion. Uh,
Yeah, and if anything, that's a recipe for a mess at any time.
yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like Final Fantasy 15. But then again, I'm an old school Final Fantasy fan. I like my Final Fantasies to have
I
RPGs
stopped at Final
within it.
Fantasy 10 and 10 2.
I would say 12 was pretty good, but Final Fantasy 12 isn't a Final Fantasy game.
It's a Final Fantasy Tactics.
It's a Final Fantasy Tactics RPG. It's a good Final Fantasy Tactics RPG, but it's a Final Fantasy Tactics RPG. Anything you want to say, Kanoshi, before we move on to the next topic?
No.
All
Just,
right.
why is I remember people getting very upset. I think people were upset about them showing off Final Fantasy 16 because it was it looked a little rough. Looked a little rough around the edges when you showed it off.
I mean,
but people were complaining about them showing CGI trailers. So what are you gonna do?
yeah. And not only that, but I mean, Square Enix has their face so far up Sony's ass that when Sony breaks wind, they can tell you. Square Enix can tell you what they ate. So
That's a little much.
yeah, but it really paints a picture of how subservient they are to that company, which is weird because Square Enix kind of has went downhill after like once the PS2 once after Final Fantasy VII, each Final Fantasy game that came out after that sold less than Final Fantasy VII. Like Final Fantasy VIII sold less than Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy IX sold less than Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy X sold less than Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy X-2 sold way less than Final Fantasy X. Like basically, it was diminishing returns with that franchise, and yet when it was solely on PlayStation, or at least that was the marketing, even though you could get a lot of those games on other platforms. And so the argument that Sony's involvement with Square Enix was good for them is laughable. And yet they still have that they still like riding that Sony dick. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know,
I sure do.
it's like being in a domestic violence relationship where before you were with that person, you had a good life, you weren't getting your ass kicked. And now it's like they keep on going back. It's like you must like getting your ass beat and having black eyes because you keep on going back to these motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. But whatever.
Yeah.
So with that being said,
It's like we need another Final Fantasy game to sell consoles.
Yeah.
Oh, that game probably won't come out until 2022. So.
Considering that Final Fantasy 15 didn't come out to the end of the PS4's life cycle, we probably won't get Final Fantasy 16 for another 3 or 4 years. This is how fucking sad and pathetic Square Enix is. Remember back in the day, like here's what people forget. During the 3rd gen, 4th gen, 5th gen, you got 3 Final Fantasies per console. I'm not even including the other shit Square Enix came out with. Like on the NES, you got 3 Final Fantasies. On the SNES, you got 3 Final Fantasies. On the PS1, you got 3 Final Fantasies. It wasn't until you hit the PS2 generation you were only getting 1 or 2 Final Fantasies per generation, per console gen.
Yeah.
And I know people are gonna say, well, what about all 3 of those 13 games? Those games suck. First of all, those games suck. Okay, let's
get that out of the way.
Let's get that out of the way. And
Though
let's
also
be real.
it makes me wonder, what kind of spectacle are you trying to compensate for slowing down all those Final Fantasy games?
And not even that. Well, because basically development for the games got more complex. Because you have to remember, Final Fantasy 3, the Final Fantasies in the NES era were using the same engine. Like over and over again, they were just using the same engine. Same thing with during the 4th generation, the 5th generation. It was just the same engine, just refined. And I mean, say whatever you want to about Hironobu Sakaguchi, the man knew how to turn out a game quickly and efficiently. Because under him, when he was the director of that franchise, you were getting 3 Final Fantasies per console gen. And Final Fantasy 13, I would say the first Final Fantasy 13 is a Final Fantasy game, a shitty one, but a Final Fantasy game. 13-2 is just, it was something else, and then they basically made it put the title Final Fantasy 13 on it. And 13.3 is a
I was
rip
about
off
to say,
of Majora's Mask.
Final Fantasy 13, the original one, it kind of felt weird trying to describe it, basically, since it seems like it doesn't feel like an RPG, yet it's supposed to be.
Well, it is an RPG. The thing is that they had a different like the people who made that game were not like they wanted to change up how RPGs work. And they did because they made a fucking terrible Final Fantasy game. Like 13, like we thought that 10-2 was the worst they could go. Like 10-2 was as bad as it could go. But
There's always the bottom of the barrel.
it got worse with 13 13-2. I mean 13 and 13-2, which was worse than 13, and then 13-3. Like all those games are terrible. They're absolute shit. So I don't know what to say.
All right. I've got.
So I don't know what to say. So with that being said, anyone have anything else they want to say before we move on to the next topic?
About Final Fantasy?
Yeah, Final Fantasy.
Or games, Jen.
I think they actually need to make a quote unquote Final Fantasy.
They're never going to do that, man. Final Fantasy, even though it hasn't been selling as much as it did during the PS1 era, like nothing has outsold Final Fantasy VII. And if you adjust for inflation, Final Fantasy VII made a lot of fucking money because Square Enix didn't have to pay for its advertisement. And that game sold PS1s. They made a lot of money off that game. And if you adjust for inflation, nothing has been more profitable for them. No Final Fantasy has been more profitable for them than Final Fantasy VII. Not a single one. Even though they keep on trying to shove that shit down people's throats. Final Fantasy this. Final
I was gonna say they're still trying to beat Final Fantasy VII.
I mean, like I played Final Fantasy VII. I don't really like Final Fantasy VII. I think it's overrated, but like
I mean, I could agree with you on that. Though, if anything, the thing I feel is the best thing of Final Fantasy VII as far as overall concept is the battle system, and as we both know, it's kind of six but more improved or tweaked in a sense.
yeah. But a lot of people like to lie on shit. That's all I'm saying. But that being said, let's move on from this.
All right.
Anything else anyone else wants to say about Final Fantasy? Anyone have any hopes for Final Fantasy? Anyone have anything? Man, if I would get back into Final Fantasy if they did this or that.
If they want me to even look in their general direction, go back to trying to make turn-based RPGs in a sense, or at least something that could catch the eye as far as good quality turn-based RPG in a sense,
I'll keep
like
it
the
real.
Bravely Default system.
At
but,
this point,
but they're not going to do that.
At this point, I don't even need it to be. I don't even need it to be turn based. Okay, because we have RPGs that do turn based better than
Final Fantasy. I know.
Final
If
Fantasy
anything,
ever did.
I just feel like if they start returning to their roots, that they could at least get some looks towards that direction.
I would say Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 and X do turn-based combat better. Like the evolution of turn-based combat better.
I really
than,
kind of. This is why I really have a grind with. I don't consider those RPGs. I consider them more action RPGs.
really. I
No,
don't.
they're RPGs. You play a role.
I mean, there's a
Yeah,
story. There are complex gameplay systems. I consider
I
the
feel
combat.
that's more like the. I consider Final Fantasy 14 in a sense.
Final Fantasy 14 is an MMO, so that
Yeah, that's what I feel about the Xenoblade Chronicles. They're
I
on
would
MMOs,
I would
single
say
players.
I would say that yeah, but not really. Um, I would say to me the combat system in the Xenoblade series is the evolution of turn-based because instead of it being where everyone's standing still, you do your attack and they do their attack. It's basically like the active time battle system taken to the next to its logical next step, which is instead of you waiting like for a meter to fill, time is moving. But instead of you having to worry about resource management of okay, like I have this much MP or I have this much TP or I have to wait for this meter to fill. Instead, well, there are meters. Instead, your resource is time. So basically, if you like you have auto attacks that you do as time goes by, because I mean it makes sense if you're in a real fight, you're going to be auto attacking and stuff like that. But you're also like your special abilities have a cooldown, so you're basically going to be constantly worrying about how time is going. The resource you have to manage is your time and your cooldowns. So you can't spam the shit out of attacks. Now, of course, like
And
every
yet you're spamming the text bot over and over again.
well, like every RPG, the thing about RPGs is that eventually, no matter what, um, or at least good RPGs, you're going to reach the point where you can exploit the game shamelessly and do whatever the hell you want. Like Xenoblade Chronicles X, sorry, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There's a point in the game where you get the ability to essentially go into your overdrives and get everyone to help you in the fight, and you can basically chain these attacks over and over and over again. Basically, go through the sequence of using your ultimate attacks on an enemy 3-4 times and doing massive amounts of damage. And once you figure out how to do that and maintain your meter so that it stays up so that you can keep it going for like 3, 4, 5, 6 times, the game gets so easy it's almost press button to win. But that's your reward for sticking through the game when it wasn't easy like that. That's what makes RPGs fun, is figuring out the complex gameplay systems and then figuring out how to break them completely.
Yep.
That's the fun of it. Like, we don't need a 3D game where you're stopping in the middle of the fight and the enemies are lined up in front of you and you're lined up in front of them, running up to them, attacking them, and running back. We don't, like, literally, at this point, we cannot do that as a Final Fantasy game again.
Sunset High.
I mean, like here's the thing. I get where you're coming from. That'd be cool if they went back to that, but really, I don't think Square Enix has the talent to pull it off and make it dynamic. So I wouldn't be. Here's the thing. I'm not against like real time combat. What bothers me is that they need to take what they did in past games with the job system and the skills and shit like that, and translate that into a real time combat thing. You need to have a party member where you can tell. And here's the thing: Final Fantasy 12 already gave them the template for this, because Final Fantasy 12 basically took that concept and said, "Hey, we're gonna have real time combat, kind of, sorta." And like you have party members, and you can give them behavior modifications that make them do certain things during a fight. They can easily do that with games now, with Final Fantasy games, but they don't want to do that. That takes effort, okay? And fuck effort with
I was
Square
about
Enix
to say,
nowadays.
when's the last time Square Enix took effort? Probably about the same time that Ubisoft gave a F about their employees.
Yeah, effort for Square Enix is like, do I really want to try? No, I don't. I don't want to try. There's no trying going on here. That's Square Enix. What, you want me to try? Damn, man. Why are you asking that? I don't want to try. Shit. What's wrong with you? Asking me to try. Look at this asshole right here asking me to try. Shit. Asshole. That's Square Enix. For me, if Square Enix wanted me to get back into Final Fantasy, I already said I would just want them to get better at making RPGs, because the quality of their RPGs has gone downhill, in my opinion. You know, like their games don't, like, you should have a sense of wonder with a Final Fantasy game. You should be like, once you leave a certain area, you should be like, man, I can't wait till I get to the new town so I can buy new weapons, and what new quests can I take, and what new enemies will I face. Like, that's a good Final Fantasy game. Like, basically making a Final Fantasy where like, that's where Final Fantasy 13 fucked up, was that, like, you're basically going like the first I want to say 2/3 of that game is you're basically being led on a trail. Like, you're being led where they want you to go, which is just bad gameplay design for an RPG. An RPG, you shouldn't be led so obviously where they want you to go. The gates to your progress should be tougher enemies that, unless you grind the shit out of it, are gonna fuck you up. So you can tell that, like, whoever is in charge of making Final Fantasies over at Square Enix, they're not good at it. they aren't talented at it. They're learning on the job, which is not a good thing. Like, the guy who made Final Fantasy 15, once he finished the game, he made like 2 DLCs and then left the company. Like, if Square Enix was, if that game did all that well, he would have still been there. You see Sakurai still making Smash Brothers games, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Shit, you see the guy over at the Dragon Quest guy, and his people are still over there making Dragon Quest games, don't you?
Uh-huh.
So, you shouldn't be losing staff like that much. That's not good. That's not good policy. So, with that being said, let's move on to the next topic, which is we're covering a little bit of pop culture news. Speaking of little kids being monsters, earlier, Jewel said that. Believe it or not, they're making a remake of one of the most horrifying movies of 1990.
What movie is that?
The Witches, based on Roald Dahl's book.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that movie.
Oh, you're missing out. You're missing out, Kadoshi. It's one of the most terrifying films ever made. This is one of those movies that came out and they were like, yeah, this is for kids. This is a PG-13 movie. And it's not. It has Angelica Houston. Yeah. It has Angelica Houston playing the head witch, the Grand Witch. And she has one of the most horrific transformations. Like, literally, this scared the shit out of me when I was a little kid. And they're remaking that film on HBO Max, directed by Robert Zemeckis, but it's got Guillermo del Toro is involved with the shit too. So it's going to be some fucked up shit, because Guillermo del Toro is really good at pulling off, oh man, that's fucked up.
Mind F's?
Yeah, it's like, god damn. So yeah, they're making a remake. It's coming to HBO Max. It's coming out October 20th or 22nd. So yeah. I mean, what can we say? What can we say? What can we do? So, I mean, I'm just like, damn. I know Hollywood keeps on making remakes of something, but remaking a movie that's 30 years old, I can understand that. It's when they make remakes of shit that's not even that old. I'm like, come on, man. You know?
Yeah, stuff that's come out like 3 years ago. We're gonna remake this.
Unless what you remade was a dumpster fire. Like if Disney within the next 3 or 4 years wants to just completely remake their original their trilogy, it's like, yeah, we fucked up. We're just gonna remake it entirely. I'd be okay with that because I did not like Disney's Star Wars trilogy. It was really shit.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I found it entertaining, but it was pretty bad.
It was entertaining. I don't know how could something. Well, actually, I do understand how something could be both entertaining and pretty bad.
It's painful, but I can understand.
It's like I enjoy watching some Adam Sandler films, even though they're really bad. So I can understand why people would be like, yeah, it's shit, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, people still enjoy a lot of those Adam Sandler movies, and everybody knows those aren't particularly good.
Yeah, I liked Grandma's
they make
Boy.
millions of. He still
like,
makes millions of dollars every year. So
yeah, I liked Grandma's Boy. I liked Happy Gilmore. I liked The Hateful. I liked I like some of those Netflix Adam Sandler movies. They're not good, but I like them. So I get where you were like, but here's the thing. Some of those films is like, okay, yeah, we knew it was going to be shit, but Star Wars could have been and has been better. Like people who came up to me and said, hey, the prequel trilogy sucks. Have you seen Disney's new trilogy? The prequel trilogy looks like a fucking work of art compared to that shit. Yeah. I would take 10 Jar Jars over another Kylo Ren or Admiral Snoke. I would take 20 of that little kid trying to hit on that grown ass woman. Are you an angel? I would take 10s of those over another Rey.
Yeah.
To throw some meat for Jewel, here's the 16 different playable races and the 6 classes you'll have in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, this is just the early access. You know they'll add more. So, you get humans, obviously, Githyanki, elves. You'll have High Elf and Wood Elf, and then Drow. Aren't the Drow and the elves the same, technically? Except the Drow were exposed to that weird energy that permeates the Underdark.
Yeah, that's an interesting case of subspecies.
Yeah, but I mean, they kind of the same thing. Whatever. I know they had to have a certain amount of races. I get it. So for Drow, they're gonna have Seldarine Drows, which are the split. So they're like Drow who don't they don't worship Lolth. Lolth sworn Drow. So these are the ones where the females are way more powerful and physically capable than the males. For like most of them. Occasionally you get one like Zach Dritz Drowden's father, but usually it's like the males are smaller and weaker than the females. And basically, here's the thing about the Lolth-sworn Drow and D&D. The females are basically like S&M Dom chicks.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that.
Well, that's just the way it is. Look, I didn't write the shit.
True. It's just that I was saying that sometimes you don't want to get that memory out of your head.
Listen, that's the reason why.
Thank you for putting it back in.
That's the reason why, if you're a male slave in the Drow, for the Lolth Drow, you do not want. That's a bad situation to be in. Because she might have sex with you and then rip your heart out like right afterwards. It's like you weren't good enough.
Yeah.
She Kali Ma'd me. No.
She would have ripped your heart out. Figuratively.
She rum-mullered me. No. And then you can be half elf, which they're half elf,
I
half elf, wood
was about
half
to
elf.
say, besides besides human, the elves and half elves are kind of the vanilla of D&D.
Yeah, I mean, half elf is like I want to have some of the strengths of being a human, but I also want to have some of the strengths of being an elf. Half
As
elf.
I said, vanilla.
Yeah. Then they have dwarves. You can be gold or shield dwarves. So, you know, yeah. Halflings. So if you want to be a hobbit who doesn't suck, halflings. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting fact by the way. The creators of D&D, the original ones, they had beef with with the with the Hobbit, or
Well,
whatever the creator of it.
well, what happened was that Gary Gygax had hobbits, and basically they got sued by the estate of J.R.R. Tolkien, and Gary Gygax was like, "Fuck you," so they made halflings. It's basically it was their answer to hobbits.
Yeah, and they still get the middle finger after all this time, I think.
I mean, you get some cool basically once it moved into 2.0 and 1.0, halflings got better. But when halflings first got started, they kind of were a shit class because they could only be thieves, but they could only level up to like level 10. And the max level was and their stats were ass. So it's like you would have like they could be thieves, but they could only rank up in thief to like level 10 as their personal level, but their thieving skill could only go up to like level 3. So basically, halflings were just shit. Like Gygax was like, so you won't let me use hobbits? Okay,
Ooh.
then I'll have hobbits in the game, but they'll be absolute shit. Um,
It took at least 2 editions before they got some real quality.
yeah. So then they have tieflings, Asmodeus tieflings, Mephistopheles tieflings, Zariel tieflings. So
How many tieflings is that? 4?
3. Asmodeus, Mephistopheles, and Zariel.
Okay.
And there's only 6 classes. You get the classic cleric, fighter, ranger, rogue, aka thief, warlock, and wizard.
Huh.
No magician.
I think that's. I was about to say that's 3 short rangers and 3 long rangers.
I mean, a ranger can kind of, if you kit them out, you can have rangers that are good with bow and arrow, but you can also have a ranger that does that dual wield sword thing. So,
Yeah, though you know where rangers usually are put.
yeah, they're typically speaking, rangers are ranged combat and a utility class because they can have the animal pet to harass people while they pepper them with arrows, and plus they can learn spells. They can learn like some druid spells and shit like that can keep your ass alive during a fight. But they're not, like the ranger. The ranger is a utility class. They're there to basically help you out, to keep you alive in a fight, and they can basically go into anything to help you out. Like a ranger can,
I thought that was kind of like the cleric.
no, the cleric. You need a healer. You need a dedicated healer, someone who can do big heals to keep your ass alive. You need a dedicated fighter to be a tank so that they can't get to the cleric. You need a rogue. You need someone, aka the thief. You need someone who can pick locks and disarm traps and find hidden shit. You need a wizard, someone who's going to do massive amounts of damage. But the ranger the ranger doesn't have the damage potential of a wizard. They don't have they can't heal. Like they might know some healing skills, but they can't heal like a cleric.
I could make the joke that now, thanks to you, that the ranger is a bard without the musical weapons.
Basically, yeah. The bard is another utility class. They're basically, because back in the day, if you wanted to be a bard, you had to start out, if I remember correctly, as a rogue, and then you had to take some feats as a druid. Like it was like, this is insane. and then you had to do a trial once you did that, and then you became a bard. It was an interesting thing. So
Yeah.
anyway, as I was saying, Baldur's Gate 3 coming out October 6th. So that's 3 days. So
Won't be too long.
Tuesday, yeah. It's early access, but it's gonna be like $60. So,
That's a beefy price.
I mean, the fact that they're
Early
charging
access.
$60 for it and it's still in early access, I'm kind of like,
That's a little much.
yeah. Like
Getting a little greedy there.
Well, I mean, like, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure. I'm reasonably certain that once all the content comes out, the game will be worth the $60. But the fact that you're selling you have a AAA game in early access, I'm a little, I'm a little iffy about it. But then again, Bethesda did the same thing with Fallout 76, so a $60 game in early access.
I've got lots.
There you go. That being said, we have one more topic, and then we can get to the asshole of the week. Nintendo apparently claims the Joy-Con drift isn't a real problem.
Can I at least take this one for here?
Go ahead.
Nintendo, I'm gonna have to be honest with you. Even though I have issues with some of your things, and I actually care about some of your things. Two things that already are my case this week. One, thanks you for the Joy-Con denial. I mean, I have a left Joy-Con that always likes to be a little rude with going upwards or left. Somehow never write her down. And saying that there's no such thing as Joy-Con drift, that's kind of like an alcoholic saying that this isn't my problem while holding a can of beer.
Yeah, they're like, I'm not an alcoholic, but you have to drink. You're drinking literally 3 handles of vodka a day. You have a problem.
You're drinking Everclear. You're desperate. You're an alcoholic.
I'm not a drug addict. You blew a dog because someone said they would give you $20 to buy crack. You have a problem. Okay. So Nintendo saying that the Joy-Con drift isn't a problem is bullshit. They rushed this console out in order to get it out so that they could get to the holiday, so that it would, to meet their fiscal year. I understand that. Because people forget Nintendo's fiscal year ends in April, and the Switch came out in March. They put it out there so that they could basically get, have something on the books for their new fiscal year. I understand that, okay? I'm not getting mad at them, but here's the thing. People who buy a system have expectations that all the components that are involved with that system are going to be able to work out the box. They have a reasonable expectation that what they spent their money on is going to be in good condition. And you guys rush this shit out there in order to meet a deadline. That's on you. Now, is this look? This is just like the Red Ring of Death. Is this as bad as the Red Ring of Death? No, because that was destroying people's system.
Hades.
Okay, but it's the same thing. It's just the degree of the fucked upness. But you guys just need to eat. Look, listen. You guys have the money. Eat the cost. Pay those people their fucking money and move on. And don't do this shit again.
And fix those left controllers.
Yeah, don't do the shit again. That's all you got to do. Just listen. We fucked up. We're sorry. We rushed the system out.
Yeah.
In order to meet our deadline for our fiscal year. We're sorry.
Yeah, that's why they released it in March, obviously.
We didn't test it. Well, the thing is that typically speaking, most companies' fiscal year ends in September. However, in Japan, their fiscal year ends in like April. Um, like what would be our second quarter fiscal year is their last quarter fiscal year. So for them, that's just how it works for them. That's how it works in their business. But my point is this: they rush the shit out there in order to meet a deadline. It's the reason why some of the first party games for the Switch ran kind of poorly because it was rushed. Um, and I mean, I'm not. Listen, okay, their business. They had to make some choices. The Wii U was failing. They had to do, and they couldn't. And the 3DS was getting really long in the tooth. We saw that diagram where they showed sales of the 3DS, where it was like going way, way down. They had to get a new product out. I understand the business side of it, but don't lie to me. Don't blow smoke up my ass and tell me, "Oh, it's not a problem."
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah, that
As
was
much
pretty
as I
bad. I saw
as
that.
much as I want to defend Nintendo at times, as in say that this is a good product and this is not all that they offer. There are some things that even I can't deny, and the Joy-Con is one of those things.
Okay, so that's just kind of funny to me. They're like, "Well, it's not a problem." Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I saw that headline. It's like, Nintendo, what are you smoking?
It's a beautiful.
Just look, just fucking take that hit and move on. Okay, just be like, look,
Yeah.
like when you guys did that shit with Mario Party and had to pay for those gloves. All you got to do is say, look, if your Joy-Con has an issue, we will replace it. We will extend the warranty indefinitely if you have like we use switches from this model like to this model because they're the older models. You send the shit in, we'll replace it, no charge to you. Because look, you guys got to take that hit for rushing the shit out there. Okay, that was on you. Okay. Um, Now it's time for our asshole of the week. I am nominating Ubisoft as asshole of the week because of the whole 25%. Literally, 1 out of every 4 Ubisoft employees have experienced or witnessed workplace harassment, which is a catch-all term for all types of fucked up shit. So that is who I'm nominating as asshole of the week. You guys can nominate anyone you want to. EA, Bethesda, Microsoft.
Believe it or not, believe it or not, this is probably gonna sound weird coming on me. I actually would go a-hole of the week with Nintendo. I said would because of the Minecraft Steve and the Joy-Con drift denial. But those are small potatoes comparison to the one I would honestly pick. Ubisoft, seriously,
Hey, it's Lynn. I'm
flush that turd already.
Yeah, Ubisoft is definitely, if not the asshole of the week, an asshole of the week because this shit's been going on for 10 to 15 years.
As I said, they need to flush that turd already.
And the sad thing is that the only reason they're doing anything about the shit now is because they got caught. Because believe me, if there hadn't been that investigative journalism and that shit hadn't come out, I guarantee you, that motherfucker who said that shit about wanting that woman to get gang raped up the ass until her mind opened up, and that guy who, that culture, those people would still be in positions of power at Ubisoft. Had not the journalism comes out. This is why when people tell me journalists aren't our friends and we don't need media, free and open media, we don't need people doing these things. No, you absolutely
excuse
do.
me, who the heck is saying that again?
Well, I mean, you don't have to go far to hear people talk about shit like that. But my point is this: you need media, you need investigative journalism.
Yeah,
You need people reporting
and
on
not
this
the
shit and
and
bringing
not
it
the
out.
and not the brown nosers. We
And no,
we talking about the serious journalists.
And no, I don't consider video game journalists to be journalists because most of them aren't actually journalists. They're advertisers. They're advertising a game. Journalists are people who actually, you know,
They do
pursue
they
sources. They do
do
research.
investigations.
They
They
ask
look at the
questions.
resources, research question. Yeah, I was trying to. Yeah, you're taking the stuff I was about to say
Yeah. So for that, yeah, EA. I mean,
and do follow-ups and corrections.
so for that, what I'm saying is this: Ubisoft, you are the asshole of the week. Anyone have anyone else they want to nominate before we wrap things up for
To be
asshole of
honest
the
with you,
week?
I was wondering if Kenosha had a nomination.
Yeah. Do you have
I was
anything
just
in
gonna
mind?
say Nintendo for that comment. It's like
What, the Joy-Con drift wasn't a big
yeah,
problem?
the Joy-Con drift has been a problem for a while, and they just don't want to eat the cost.
Well, I
It's
mean,
like
that's not like. Here's the thing. It's like when Microsoft did that shit with the Red Ring of Death. People forget that with the 360, they fought people for the first. I want to say the first like 3-6 months of the Red Ring of Death with the 360.
Oh,
They
yeah.
fought people to replace those things. They're like, oh no, we're not going to do that. Oh no, we don't have to repair this. We don't have to fix this. They fought people because they knew they were going to lose a lot of money replacing the shit. Here's like that's a okay. We'll call them the assholes of the week because those are both. Because here's the thing, okay, you don't have to buy Ubisoft games. But if you buy a Nintendo console, you have a reasonable expectation, or any console, you have the reasonable expectation that what you bought, especially if it's new, not used, new, that what you bought is going to work out of the box. Okay? You have that expectation as a consumer. And the fact that they're trying to downplay the shit once they got caught, oh, we put out a defective product in order to meet a deadline. There's a reason I say that Nintendo has kind of gone downhill a little bit. Because I don't think any of this shit would have happened. You know, if Iwata hadn't died and had been alive, I don't think they would.
Yeah,
I don't think they would have shut that brick out if it wasn't ready. Now I could
I
be
think they would
wrong.
have they probably would have stuck with the Wii U for at least another year and
Yeah,
a half. I don't think they would have put out the Switch.
I don't think they would have put it out like that. I think they would have been, look, we're going to give the Wii U another year. We know we're losing money, but we're going to give it another year. We're going to drop maybe one or two really big games for the 3DS. That'll bring in some revenue, and then the games that we're working on for the Switch will have been tested properly. Will work with the hardware best. I guarantee you, a lot of those games would have been a lot better and run better on the Switch had they had another year in the oven.
Yeah.
But that's just me making suppositions. But that being said, we have a new one. We have two assholes of the week. We have Nintendo and Ubisoft. Although Ubisoft is the bigger asshole of the week because this is just like it hurts more with Nintendo because Nintendo used to have a better, higher quality, hold themselves to a higher standard quality of the way they put out their products. But if you're putting out a product where fucking one of the controllers is inherently flawed, and you're trying to downplay the shit, you know,
Yeah, Nintendo, just eat the elephant. You have a big enough stomach to do it.
yeah, eat the cost and fix the shit. Maybe this will be an incentive for you to not do this shit again. Okay? And with the way the Switch is going, the Switch could easily have a 7-year life cycle. They could easily push it another 2 years beyond the normal 5-year life cycle so that the next gameplay device is actually up to snuff, which is what they should do and not just shit something out there to have something on the shelves. But with that being said, that's the end of this podcast. Let's see if there's any questions from our viewership. No, we have no questions. So with that being said, that's the end of this podcast. Anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I picked up the new Crash game, and it's pretty fun. It's definitely now you like to say that Crash Bandicoot tries to ape Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Well, this game sure definitely feels like that for sure.
Which Donkey Kong? Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Donkey Kong Returns?
I would say the newer Donkey Kong games is kind of what it feels like.
So Returns and Tropical Freeze.
Yeah.
I mean, Crash Bandicoot was made to compete against Donkey Kong Country, but Naughty Dog has never been in the same level as Rare when they were at their height. So, like, I just never really felt bad about not being into Crash Bandicoot back in the day because I had the good shit. Like, why would I want something inferior to the good shit? But that's just me. But with that being said, let's wrap things up. Anyone else wants to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Is Donkey Kong Country that big of a deal? I mean, back in the day, no, it was a popular game, but I didn't know it was that.
Yeah. Literally, they created, like, basically, because Nintendo had Donkey Kong Country, and people were like, look at those graphics. And then, like Sony was like, shit, we need something. So they had Naughty Dog, someone had Naughty Dog make Crash Bandicoot. But, I mean, just from gameplay design and smoothness of gameplay and all that shit, because of, like, the hardware limitations of the SNES, like, the SNES was towards the end of its life cycle. So towards the end of a console's life cycle, you get games that you could have never imagined at the beginning of the life cycle. And the types of games, like Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3, some of the best 2D I would say that Donkey Kong Country, in terms of gameplay mechanics and how it feels, is better of a platformer than Super Mario World. And Super Mario World is perhaps one of the best 16-bit platformers of all time. But Donkey Kong Country is better. And Donkey Kong Country is great, but Donkey Kong Country 2 is even better than the Donkey Kong Country 1. Like, it's just like, damn, this is... Like, people forget how fucking awesome Rare was back in the day. Like, Rare is shit now, but Rare back in the day?
I mean,
oh, man.
I was about to say that. I know Rare back in the past, they had some phenomenal games, and even games that could outshine Nintendo at times.
Yep. Like Mario 64 is a good game. Okay, it's even now it's still playable. But Mario 64 compared to Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, there is so much more going on in those games than anything in Mario 64. Even Mario 64 DS doesn't have the amount of shit going on in it that the Rare platformers do. Like, Rare was just doing more. They were doing more with the hardware than Nintendo was. So, like, Rare during their golden age was just, I mean, that's why it hurts so much when Microsoft bought Rare and turned them into shit. But that's the end of this podcast. If you want to get in touch with the channel, you can reach us at mrredfoxbsbusters@gmail.com. You can at me on Twitter at Matthew Wesley at mrredfox91. There's a link to the Discord.
And we got our Discord.
Yeah, that's right. Called BS Busters, where we talk about pop culture and mostly video games, a little bit of pop culture and other things. So with that being said, that's the end of this podcast. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe.
Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Don't forget to wash your hands and hype responsibly.
Yes.
And do you got anything else?
And we have a podcast every Wednesday and Saturday, 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. We ran a little bit over today, but, shit. What you gonna do? Where you got to be? With that being said, that's the end of the podcast.